comes across like this whole like town of like women that are like all warriors that are seem to be maybe even better than like Mamiya, and he also runs into it also turns out that his master or whatever Rofu, that guy that's supposed to be as good as Souther's master, apparently his wife was also like was in contention to get the Roku Seiken spot, and apparently she was even like more of a graceful fighter than him. Whether or not she could necessarily beat him in a fight, because he was really big and strong, could maybe be debated. But she was the more graceful fighter, so she was, obviously very capable. So it just doesn't make sense with his whole mentality of how he wants to, he doesn't necessarily think women should fight, and they should, stay away from like kind of like the battlefield. So it doesn't really work with his character that this happened to him before meeting Mamiya and Kenshiro. It just came across as really dumb to me. So like I can't consider it part of my personal canon. I mean, there's the only real canon, I guess people would argue, is the manga. But for me, I like to, the way I judging this fight is based off of things I guess that I consider canon. That's why I'm using a lot of the anime kind of more so than just the manga and the movie. I'm even using to some degree. But I mean, if I was going to even include that one, I'd have to look at Shin, the manga where the guidance where Shin appears, and in those I think he fights like Juza of the Clouds or whatever that guy. He fights him like to like kind of a draw, it looks like, or they're pretty evenly matched in it. So which is a nice feat for him too. But I don't count that one either because I thought he acted a little bit out of character too, in my opinion, with the way he was kind of treating Yuri. I think he like almost like was about to strike her at one point if it wasn't for Juzo, which doesn't really seem like something he would do to her personally, just looking at how he treats her in the series. But back to Ray, we just gotta look at his defeat. The way he dies is just he fights Raoh, and Raoh beats him. Raoh beats him very easily. He doesn't really land one strike on Raoh. He does do like a kamikaze technique, which may have been able to kill Raoh, but honestly, when you're fighting, the best you can hope for is a draw against your opponent. Going kamikaze, it doesn't really count for much to me when in that regard. He loses pretty badly against Raoh, no doubt about it. Alright, now moving on to Shin. Shin, he has he got taken out really early in the manga, like I said, and in fact, like the time in between the two fights with Kenshiro, really, that was another thing that kind of bothered me in the manga. Was you read the fight that happens in a flashback. You read the first fight in a flashback, and he beats Ken, and then as soon as you turn the page, it's time for the rematch. So there's no real build up for the fight. Isn't really nearly as good as it is in the anime. The anime's much. The whole Shin arc's a lot better, I think, in the anime. It kind of dragged a little bit, and there's a scene with like the God's Army. Like I didn't like how they worship Shin in the anime. That was much better in the manga, but a lot of the other stuff though in that one I liked a lot more in the anime. Alright, but getting back on track, just the opponents he's beaten. He beat this really tall giant guy, like I said earlier, when he was just going out conquering, for, his girl that he wanted to like him, Yuria. And, I mean, I don't know what that guy really counts as. I mean, I guess he might be as good as the guy with the nunchucks that Ray beat. I mean, really big giant guy and the guy with the nunchucks. But either way, not a really significant win at all. He kills that guy really quickly, just runs right through him. So that's something, I think, to maybe note. And then in addition to that, he beats Kenshiro, which is basically his greatest victory. Some people think Kenshiro was taking it, kind of easy on him early on, wasn't being too serious with the fight, but I don't think so. I think judging by how Ken took out Jaggy, quickly, and there when Jaggy tried to kill him, when Ken was announced as the successor, I think Kenshiro knew how tough Shin was and was going all out, but I just think Shin was a much more powerful opponent. I mean, Shin obviously thought he was, and definitely remarked on the difference in the strength of Kenshiro between the first and second fight. So I just think Ken got a lot better. Not necessarily, like Dragon Ball Z level, like powered up, but yeah, I think Ken got a lot tougher for the second fight. For sure. I just think Shin was a better fighter. In addition to that, I think Shin was a lot weaker for the second fight because he was driven by like obsession, and while he spent a lot of the time conquering and maybe getting a bit better, he did also get weaker once Yuria tried to kill herself. I think that kind of crushed any hope he had of ever getting her to like him. So that's why he spoiler, he ends up giving her away to some people, which is something he would you would think he just wouldn't do, but he's willing to kind of give her away a little bit to hide her, more easily. He's more easily persuaded, I think, though he's doing it kind of to protect her, I think, from like Raoh or whatever. But I think he's just been persuaded because she tried to kill herself rather than be with him. So he kind of, I think, knows at this point he's never gonna get her. So he's kind of a broken man, I think, at that kind of point. And then even in like the movie when he and Ken fight, I think he mentions that if I'd known you've gotten stronger, I would have trained for the fight. I mean, I don't know. He might have been just joking, but he may have been serious too. Either way, though, I think he was definitely weaker for the second fight. But that said, in his defeat, he puts up a much better fight. He puts up a really good fight against Kenshiro. Much better than most people. Kenshiro kind of it gives that feel maybe that Kenshiro's a lot better and is in control kind of the whole time. But Shin gets his shots in there, and a lot of it's just, I think, Kenshiro coming off as pretty confident, but throughout the fight. But I think Ken was a lot tougher, or a good bit tougher. But I think Shin was pretty close still in my mind, or not close, but a very dangerous opponent to say the least. I brought up some victories for Ray from the animated movie, that helped boost his record against notable opponents. Shin manages to beat some people too. He kills Colonel in it, who's a really great opponent for Kenshiro in the series. Put up an excellent fight against him, but it's kind of like he kind of just they don't really fight much. Shin just kind of stabs him and kills him instantly. Technically, Colonel in the series should be able to read people's movements and stuff, but so that's sounds like it's a nice plus, but really it's more like a cameo kind of appearance for Colonel. It's not like he might not be nearly as tough as he is in the manga or the anime, so it's not really worth reading usually too much into with that. But another thing that should be noted about this the movie is that Shin also fights Raoh, and that's he loses to Kenshiro a lot more easily in the movie than he does in the manga and in the anime, because a lot of that's due because he already got beat by Raoh. So Raoh actually is an opponent. I guess you could say that they both fought, at least in the movie they didn't fight. They both fight in the manga or anime, but they both fought him in the movie. But you see Ray's fight, he doesn't land a shot, and Raoh doesn't look like he's hurt, so it didn't look like Shin did much better. But it should be noted though that Raoh did get off his horse, I guess, to fight Shin, whereas Ray didn't think much of him. So chose not to. Though it could have just been because his horse wasn't around. But I think it's somewhat interesting because Raoh did kind of make a big deal that he wouldn't get off his horse to fight a lot of opponents, like in the series. Shin has, I guess, one other significant opponent that he fights. He fights him in the live-action movie. It's just another Nanto Seiken, I think, practitioner that he beats pretty easily. Though that movie was crap, so I mean, I don't know if I really want to count that or not. In this, doesn't really help his case much, though. So another thing, I guess, that he does in the movie is he puts up a better fight against Kenshiro too, or a pretty good fight against Kenshiro in the rematch, which is, I suppose, significant. But overall, that wasn't movie wasn't very good, so I'm not gonna put much stock in it at all on this. There's only one character that both Shin and Ray fight in the series. I mean, they both fight Raoh in the movie, but you don't get to see Shin's fight, so it's really hard to figure that one out. But the one opponent they both fight in the manga and the anime is Kenshiro, and we've talked about Shin's fights already with him, but yeah, Ray's fight's a bit different. He's forced to fight him because these bad guys, I guess, have his sister, and they say kill Ken or else we'll kill your sister, basically. And so they start fighting, and Ray looks like to me like he's going all out. He doesn't really, he's not really buddies with Kenshiro at this point, and he didn't pretty much do anything to protect his sister. Even Mamiya, who he liked, he didn't. He was clear he'd be fine giving up her life to protect his sister, and so he attacks Ken all out, and Ken kind of just blocks him. I think Ken gets like a cut across his face, like one small cut on his face, and he stops Ray's attacks and just talks some sense into Ray, and it doesn't look kind of like he's taking the fight all that seriously. Kind of just like just kind of stop. It's kind of more his attitude about it. So you compare that with Shin's fights that I mentioned earlier. It does look like Shin performed better against Kenshiro, though Ray's fight wasn't nearly as long, so it's not completely fair to just base it maybe on that alone. So, without further ado, I think I'm gonna declare who I think would be the winner of this fight. My opinion. I'm gonna need a drum roll. Shin. Yeah, sorry all you Ray fans. Yeah, it's good. It's, you know, it's possible it could go either way, but I've definitely got to lean, in my opinion, somewhat heavily in Shin's favor. Shin's got, you know, he's the more ruthless fighter in my opinion. He's always much more quicker to the kill. And all, you know, every fight we've seen him, the big giant guy, just dashed right through him. Whereas, you know, Ray kind of talked with, you know, the guy with the nunchucks a little bit, and before finishing him off. Same thing with the warden of Cassandra. We saw him, you know, talk and kind of say, I don't want to, you know, fight you, just kind of get out of the way, and messed around with him and tied the whips into, rather than just finishing him off. Shin, on the other hand, his attacks are all just meant to just put the guy down, like, immediately, usually. Every time he's trying to finish the fight, usually as fast as he can, as far as I can tell. You know, he beat Kenshiro super quick. He beat Balcrom. Balcrom took some of his attacks because he had a lot of durability, but Shin pushed through that and killed him pretty quickly too. Or not quick. Well, he put up a fight, but he had like a real high durability. That's why he was able to take some of his attacks. But Shin was just trying to kill him the whole time. You know, he'll, you know, toy with you and torture you after he wins, but he'll be quick to just get the job done. Whereas Ray kind of, you know, will toy a little bit more with his opponents, I think. And I don't think his attacks are usually as devastating right away. He usually takes a couple swings kind of to finish off like the guys, where Shins are just kind of one straight, you know, attack right through. That, and you got to just look at the fight with Kenshiro. That's like the big factor is Shin fought against Kenshiro a lot better. The Raoh thing, him getting off the horse, everything just seems to point towards Shin being the superior fighter, in my opinion. You know, his confidence about how he could beat Kenshiro and how he backed it up. So, you know, I tend to have a very high kind of view of Shin. I think he's very underrated. Well, that's just because he didn't, you know, got taken out so early on. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. This is pretty extreme, but I think he was about as good as Raoh was at the beginning of the series. I think Raoh got a lot better, like, by the time he fought Kenshiro. But back when he like first started, I think he was pretty much just as good as Raoh, and he was all obsessed with fighting, you know, Kenshiro to get Yuria. I think he was about as strong as Raoh was at the time. You know, and yeah, it's just what I feel about it, and it's just my opinion, though. I'm going to be doing another, probably versus, the next one's probably going to be Raoh. For all you Raoh fans, it'll be him against his older brother Kyūkyoku, so I'm looking forward to doing that one. Hopefully that one won't need to take quite as long as it did on this one, but just look forward to, let me know what you guys think about who would win in the fight, and just look forward to seeing your comments and hearing from you in the future.